Well, good morning. Welcome back to the broadcast, Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRNAM for Tuesday, February 15th, 2022. And our top story today, dozens of 401k fee suits see the trickle-down effect from the recent SCOTUS Hughes decision. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Jacqueline Willey with Bloomberg Law. Jacqueline, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I hope you had a great Valentine's Day.
Of course.
Let's talk about this. So we're gonna, things we love to talk about on this network. Supreme Court cases. We like to talk about litigation, not for the obvious reasons, but to really understand. You did a great story, kind of breaking down what employers and employees are thinking, or employer groups and employee groups are thinking as a result of this Supreme Court decision on the Hughes case. But before we get into that, I want to do that in the second segment. Let's talk about the nuts and bolts of this case. What was the Supreme Court weighing in on? It was a Hughes decision, but what were some of the specifics around that?
Yeah, so the Supreme Court was tackling an area of law that has just exploded in the last couple of years, retirement plan fees. And a lot of people, I think, were thinking the court would really do something big in this area of law that's just attracted tons and tons of lawsuits. They ended up doing something a lot more narrow. What I see them doing is they knocked out one main defense that plan sponsors and employers had used to dismiss these lawsuits about their retirement plan funds and fees. And the defense was, we offered all these good funds in our plan, so we shouldn't be liable if there's one or two bad ones in there. And the court said, no, that's not how it works. But beyond that, they didn't really give a lot of guidance to either litigants or the courts that are hearing these cases, which have just proliferated a lot in recent years.
And you've talked to a lot of experts. You do that as part of your day-to-day role as a journalist. What was the reaction? And again, I want to save the employer and employee group reaction, but just industry experts, people that you've talked to, in and around this ecosystem, because it's pretty vast.
Yeah, I think that most people are comfortable calling it a plaintiff win. I would call it that myself. It didn't really seem to change the game much. There's a lot of issues percolating in these cases, and the court really focused on one thing that the lower court did that it didn't like, and it said, no, that's no good, try again. So I don't think that people see this as groundbreaking as it could have been if the court had really put some guardrails and some rules into how these cases go forward. So sort of status quo, continuing with a little changes around the edges, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of this litigation and even Department of Labor regulation around retirement plans, I feel like we're always kind of nibbling and moving things incrementally. And that's not a bad thing. But, it just feels like, having been in the industry for a long time, I just feel like we make a little bit of progress here and there. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a joke at this point. ERISA sort of gets picked on by the court. There have been a number of times, they'll say in a totally unrelated opinion, well, at least this isn't a boring ERISA opinion. So part of me thinks that this isn't something that they like thinking about that much, and they want to deal with the cases as quickly and cleanly as they can, and then maybe move on to something else.
Yeah, and as you said, if the perception is that this is a plaintiff victory. Look, we've had, in reading your great piece, I think 120 litigation cases, in the fee litigation cases, I think in the last, was it 2 years, if I'm not correct, if I'm incorrect, or 10 years?
I think I can tell you there have been about 150 over the past 2 years, which is, a lot.
Yeah, who's counting? But would you expect, just based on this perception, that this kind of opens the door to even more? And by the way, not just fees, but maybe privacy, data, other aspects of the retirement plan ecosystem that maybe haven't been as scrutinized in the past.
Yeah, I won't say that after this opinion we're off to the races, because we were already off to the races. These cases were getting filed on a weekly basis, and they were surviving motions to dismiss more than half the time, maybe something like 2/3 of the time. So this was already a pretty favorable environment for plaintiffs, at least in the early stages. And I don't see that this changes that at all, and might accelerate it a bit, is what I would say.
Yeah, and just to clarify, and correct me if I'm wrong, this decision really kicks it back to the lower court, and the lower court has to work through this again. So basically, I guess another trial, more discovery, more hearings, all that kind of stuff. So we don't yet know, other than punting it back, we don't yet know what the outcome of this is going to be. So I guess we're going to hear more about this during 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll go back to the Seventh Circuit first, and I'm not sure what the Seventh Circuit will do. That's been a court that's traditionally, they've had a couple of defendant-friendly decisions on the books there. So if they want to stick in that lane, they certainly have an opportunity to still rule for Northwestern here. I don't know if the Seventh Circuit really changes course based on this. I would be surprised, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of fiduciaries who are waiting with bated breath when these cases get decided. Jacqueline, I need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about how employer groups and employee groups reacted to this decision. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you over 50? Would you like to get up to 33% more income in retirement? Then call now for this free book, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers. This free book reveals little-known secrets about annuity strategies that will help you make the right choices before buying an annuity. Call right now for your free book, and as a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report, both absolutely free for calling Annuity General today.
Call 800-504-8194.
Welcome back. We're talking ERISA cases in the Supreme Court decision this morning. And joining us is Jacqueline Willey of Bloomberg Law. Jacqueline, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
Sure.
I haven't chased a guest off yet. They haven't walked off. So far, you've made it into the second segment. My record is intact. Let's talk about the reaction now. Let's break it into two different groups. The employer reaction, let's start with that. What has been, the reaction to the Supreme Court decision from other fiduciaries?
Yeah, so we're starting to see them file their responses and their briefs, and that's sort of what I've been tracking. And they're using words like narrow, limited, fact specific, leaves open more questions than it answers. So the employers are really, I think, trying to minimize this. This decision is not a game changer. It addresses this one little sliver, and there's a lot more to litigate. That's one of the main things that they're doing. They're also doing some pretty creative things, I think, which I can get into. One thing that I've seen a couple of employers do is paint the decision as being against categorical rules. You know, the Seventh Circuit in the case below had a categorical rule that if you have good funds, then you're okay to have bad funds. And the Supreme Court said no. So what the Supreme Court did was say no categorical rules. And this case against us is based on another categorical rule that passive management is always better than active management. So since the Supreme Court didn't like one categorical rule, it wouldn't like this one either, which I thought was pretty creative. So that's some of the ways they're sort of spinning off to have new arguments based on the ruling.
And what about employee groups? So these are class action suits that a group of employees get together and say, this has impacted us negatively. I would imagine, just based on what you said in the first segment, they're probably very favorable to this ruling. But what has been the reaction in your eyes?
Yeah, they really like how the court said again that plan fiduciaries have a continuing duty to monitor plan investments. The court held that, I think, in 2015 in a case called Tibble, and they said it again. So plaintiffs like that. They like that that's on the books. One thing they're also doing is trying to argue that other bad precedent has now been knocked out by this ruling. In the Seventh Circuit, they've had a couple of different cases over the years that have been really favorable to employers. And I've seen at least a couple of employee groups saying, well, now those decisions, those don't really work anymore either under this new Supreme Court guidance. So they're trying to not only run with the Supreme Court guidance, but say, oh, these other decisions that, you used in the past to kick us out of court, they're gone. So that's interesting too.
What's the takeaway for employers? I've sat in, and I'm sure you've written about many quarterly meetings where we review and evaluate investments. You talk about fees, but is it just more of the same, meaning document, adhere to your investment policy, review your fees? I mean, you're in a continuous state of review. Is that the takeaway here for fiduciaries?
In terms of the process that they could use to make sure they're not on the receiving end of one of these lawsuits?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, fiduciary process is always, the beacon call that you need to be worried about. We just really have gotten to a point where plaintiffs' attorneys are very, very good at writing these complaints, and courts are increasingly willing to let them get past a motion to dismiss. So in terms of the advice for avoiding one, I don't really know. I mean, it seems like, as I said before, off to the races is sort of where we are. So yeah, have your good process in place, do your request for proposals, all those kind of things, but these suits are coming.
Yeah, it seems like that, just based on what's happened in the last 2 years, there's going to be more and more. And by the way, it's going to be in large plans, small plans, all over the retirement industry. So not just 401k, it could include 403b like the Hughes case, and maybe some other areas. What's the lesson here for employees? I mean, if you are dissatisfied with your retirement plan, if you think something is amiss, you should probably, maybe before the lawsuit, reach out. And you have a voice to share if you're a participant in a retirement plan. You can ask for different types of investments. You can say why, right? I mean, you can advocate for yourself and for others.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of room for improvement in retirement plans in terms of fees and offerings, but it's made a lot of progress over the last several years. The industry is trending way downward in terms of fees. So if that is the goal of this, litigation push, they really have had some big successes in terms of lowering fees industry-wide.
Yeah, and certainly if you're a participant in a retirement plan, there's a committee, there's probably a process in place where you can share your feedback. And if you read something that someone else is doing, it's good to ask that question. I think that communication, Jacqueline, probably really important before you get to a lawsuit.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Jacqueline, great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us. And we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Absolutely. Take care.
That wraps up this episode of BRNAM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest news in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, and all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, which you can find on our website. Want to search our archives or see our latest content? Well, of course, you can check the aforementioned website, www.broadcastretirementnetwork.com, and our streaming partners like Amazon, Roku, Samsung, and over 100 more. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRNAM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
But if you're tired of the same old...
Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.